something. I guess, I wanted to begin the talk with just asking how do you use video in your class? Just to get an idea of how can I tailor the workshop more towards, is it something that you want? There's so many different ways we can use videos in the classroom. We're seeing now uh, assignments, video essays, we're seeing presentations, we're seeing projects on video. I'm seeing more and more of that. I'm also seeing a lot of video discussions happening with video. So there's a big movement to move towards video, along with Brightspace, because Brightspace now has the video notes tool there. So we're seeing a lot of that happening, especially for those who are teaching an online synchronous, online asynchronous, hybrid. Flipping the classroom is all video, is focused on video. So just to open up the space, I'm curious to hear your ideas with how to incorporate videos into your classroom so I can tailor the workshop towards the audience.
Well, I know that I want to use it a little bit for flipping the classroom so that I do some more video for, especially for doing research, sort of helping them to do that. That would be some nice videos, but also brief lectures. So you can spend more time helping them with their specific work and lab and things like that. And then just for internships, because I coordinate internships, it'd just be nice to have, like, honestly, I have all this written information on the internship coordination site. And even though you try to condense it, honestly, sometimes they just need, like, honestly, I want to get it to like a 5-minute video. I have a slideshow, but yeah.
That's a great example. Flipping the classroom is one of my favorite things to do, and to even, to talk about and do workshops because of the idea that it's reusable. You can create videos and make sure that when you record them, not to timestamp them or put dates on, because they'll age, obviously, or the material might change. And so, but with Adobe Express, it makes it very easy to go back to the project and make those quick edits if the video does get outdated. So that's a great example. Anyone else wants to share or
Yeah, I just been using them for tutorials basically because it seems like, especially it mostly started, when we were all remote, but I find myself just using it and referring back to it because it's just so useful. Just being able to say, you know, watch this video so that I don't have to spend the time in the class. Um, Something that I kind of offer to my students, although none of them have ever taken me up on it, which is basically having giving them options, like instead of submitting a traditional assignment to say, hey, if you want to record a video of you, let's say, teaching a subject for 5 minutes, do that instead of submitting your notes. But none of them have ever really taken me up on it, but I'm trying to push that a little bit more.
that's a great
Maybe,
example. Oh, sorry, go
maybe
ahead,
their
Todd.
tool would help them do that, the Express tool. Yeah.
Well, so that was one thing I was going to mention, Michael. The I'm doing a big push for digital storytelling with Adobe Express. We were funded by Adobe to do a group of students, and so I'm forming together a small group of students, completely funded, funding from Adobe, and students that will create these stories, practice on their narrative, storytelling techniques, hero's journey, learn how to use Adobe Express. And at the end, Adobe's welcoming the students to their headquarters in Times Square, which is a great experience for them to, take a look and see what happens behind closed doors at Adobe. But not only that, they're going to show their stories, tell their stories, and to the Adobe employees, and then they're going to walk away with Adobe swag bag, some gifts, and so that's going to be fun. So that's another project I'm working on, but I'm also working with Professor Carrie Hall on bringing digital storytelling assignments into the classroom. So we're building an OER for any faculty who is interested in using the resources on how to create these digital assignments, storytelling assignments in their classroom, and reimagining of traditional paper-based assignments to to digital storytelling. So that's something also keep, I'll let you know how that turns out. Um, okay, these are great examples. Okay, this is great. This helps me get an idea. So to begin, oh, anyone else
Can
before I start?
may I?
Sure, sure, go ahead. Oh,
Yeah.
Andrea,
Hi,
how are
I'm
you?
Andrea. How are you?
Great to see you.
So this is wonderful. I've tried. I'm doing well. I hope everybody else is. I want to use Express. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I want to use Express to help students tell their career journey, and in that way, link a lot of what they learn in each individual class to how they can use that information along with their elevator pitch to answer interview questions. The experience we have is that students do not see homework or presentations or projects or capstones as experience that translates into the profession in which they're going into. So I want to make it sort of available so that if, for instance, if an interviewer asks, tell me about a project you work on that was successful, they could go to a class presentation, do a video and say, well, this is how I would answer the question using Marketing 2300. And
Hmm.
then I always say to them, one story can answer two questions because if the person flips the questions, well, tell me about something that didn't work. Most times on a project, something works and something doesn't work,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and they will have an answer. But I think visually doing that is very important and I think would be quite effective. So that's what I'd like to do on
Oh, that's
Express
fantastic.
for the PDC and career services.
I love that. I think that's fantastic. I think one of the top skills as we move forward is to be able to articulate your thoughts and elevator pitch, know what to say in 2, 3 minutes, when you have the opportunity, or else you're going to miss that opportunity when you have that person right in front of you. That's something that I struggled. I remember as a college student at Baruch, even before that, I'll go back to high school. I was very nervous. I was horrible. I was so scared of public speaking. I joined the choir to try to get over it. And I'm standing there shaking, but it did help. And then eventually in college, I had no choice but to have to speak in those presentations. And so that's something I'm still working on and getting better at. But I do want to say though, if you are thinking about using digital storytelling or bringing video into the classroom for digital essays or video essays and things of that nature, or the most common one is video discussions, you're going to notice in the beginning there is a resistance from the students. It's a little awkward for them to get on a camera and speak, and they have to get used to it. But trust me, if you hold on to it, if you create a safe place and you yourself and they see you actually doing the same, it goes much smoother. Before I joined City Tech at FIT, we used to have VoiceThread, which is very similar to what we have now in Brightspace called video notes. The idea was that you can have discussions with the video, with the recording, the camera turns on, the student, instead of writing their response, they would speak. And it's almost like, I always use this analogy, but it's almost like when you were learning, when you were taking your driver's test, you actually have to demonstrate that you know how to drive. And so it's kind of like that. They have to get on the camera, speak, and explain what they know and what they learned. Now, yes, they can stop the recording, re-record, but in the process, they're actually learning. So from the mistakes, right? So and it's practicing how they're speaking,
And
and
it
so
would be helpful because, yeah.
yeah, go ahead. Oh,
I think it's helpful because a lot of interviews also are now happening on camera or online, or you have to pre-record your answers to questions.
Absolutely.
So this is practice or preparation for doing that as well.
Yeah.
So important. I can't tell you the number of scholarships, fellowships, internships. MAPE now requires, this is the Multicultural Advertising Internship Program, a 2.5 minute video. That's really the big component of the application. And that's happening even for college applications now. To get into college, you're starting to see that some colleges are requesting a video. So the more they do it, the better. I have to say, I really empathize with them because I've never had a problem getting up in front of a room of human beings and presenting, but I don't like being on camera.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm on it now, but it's not my preferred mode. I think
Yeah.
it's because I'm uncomfortable with having discussions, especially classroom discussions with being recorded because I feel as if there's some concerns with that. Right? Just because classrooms were open, fluid places, and recordings can go places, and people can now edit them. So
Mm.
that's partly why I think. But also, it's just that whole Jan Brady thing. I don't know if ever you watched the Brady Bunch when you were growing up.
Yes.
Jan Brady's on TV and she sees the red light and she's like, eh. Just knowing I'm on the camera. It's just like, yeah.
Oh, can I just say real quick? So I'm at CUNY SPS, so we're fully online. I manage the media for our online production. So like VoiceThread's very familiar with me, but we have a studio, and I'll just say that faculty come in to record with us in the studio, and they are the most personable, outgoing and talkative, and then the camera turns on, and it happens probably once or twice a year, and they become like deer in a headlight. It's so, I don't know, I feel so bad because I'm trying to make this face very warm and like relaxed and take a deep breath and all that. And it's interesting to see that. Like, it's like deer in a headlights. It's like, just like yours.
I just freeze up. It's just the knowing that it's being recorded and uh, yeah, I don't care for it. And so I'm really pushing through on that.
Here's a tip that as Matt mentioned, I used to also work in media production. That was one of the ways I was always had a passion for media production, filming, and editing, and I taught myself how to do all those things, and it eventually got me an opportunity that otherwise I would have not gotten other than if I had no learned those skills on my own. One thing I learned, Matt, as you were talking, it brought me back. I There was one time I was filming a professor, and just exactly like you said, very personable, great speaker. And then when he saw the red light go on, we were filming a MOOC for Columbia University,
Mhm.
and we were shooting the MOOC, and he got up, and and then you saw the complete change. And then so we stopped, and I said, okay, tell me about one person who makes you feel so comfortable when you speak to that person. He told me about his mom, and so I said, okay, look, so what I'm going to do is I took this post-it note, and I said, look, take this post-it note and draw your mom. And I took the post-it note and I put it next to the red light on the camera. And I said, that's your mom. Talk to your mom. And it didn't, I mean, it doesn't happen automatically, but with time, it felt a little much more. And as we did it, it got a little better. But that was something that I always remember in media production. And I kept doing that. I kept drawing bringing post-it notes with me every time.
I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah, yeah. But you gotta have them draw you can't, right? So it's something about them having a paper and pen and drawing, and then something about it becomes real, and then it's almost like they say when when you're speaking in front of an audience, picture them naked or something, something like that. That's great, Matt. I think I know a colleague of yours. I think it's not Jonathan
Oh, with CUNY Online.
at CUNY Online.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Uh,
do similar jobs, but he's CUNY Online. We're at School of
okay.
Professional Studies.
Okay, perfect. So I just want to mention, I don't know if you all know, but CUNY has signed the contract with Adobe, and they pretty much restructured the deal to save money. More like, I guess what they did was they reduced the number of licenses for the suite, right? The Adobe suite, the Creative Cloud. And what they did is they gave us everyone at CUNY access to Adobe Express. And the only way I can describe Adobe Express is the little brother or the little sister of Adobe Premiere. It's the low-hanging fruit. That's the way I can think of it. I learned Premiere on my own. I also learned After Effects. I was so into it. I got so in, but it takes time and it's very difficult to learn some of these tools and a lot of time it takes to practice and so at a certain point I was doing workshops on digital storytelling, and I would get invited into the classroom, and the professor would say, "Well, this is the assignment. This is what we're going to do," and then I would spend an hour and a half trying to teach them iMovie or something, and it just didn't make any sense because you lost an hour and a half. The whole class was basically how to teach them how to use iMovie, and it just doesn't work because at the end of the day, the point is that the tool should not take the spotlight, right? The technology shouldn't take the entire the spotlight. What we're trying to do here, you're trying to tell a story. You're trying to tell the narrative that you're trying to tell. Should the technologies not supersede the story you're trying to tell? It should be as seamless and easy as possible to create the story using the technology. And so when I learned about Adobe Express, at the time it was called Adobe Spark. I don't know if anyone remembers Adobe Spark at the time. And
Mhm.
when I saw Adobe Spark, I was like, oh my gosh, finally, I feel like I can go back to digital storytelling because um, with Adobe Express, I created a maybe 8-minute video tutorial on how to create these videos, and students were able to pick it up and go with it. And so I would hand them the video as an OER. I would give the professor the instructions and all the resources, and they would take it and make it their own, and they would fly with it. What I started to notice was faculty members were then saying to themselves, well, this is Jose speaking. He's not the teacher of this course. And then they began making their own tutorial videos. And that's how I learned. It makes sense if your teacher is doing it, and I see my teacher actually creating the video them herself or himself, then the student feels like, oh, I can do this too. So that's another lesson I learned from that experience. I'll stop there if any questions or comments, and then before we do a little bit of a demo on Adobe Express, anyone want to jump in or have any comments?
I would just add to your definition of Adobe Express in that I see it as like a very graphical oriented rather than video.
Yeah.
So there's a lot you can do with the graphics, text and titles, and
That's what I'm hoping
there's
for.
a deep, deep pool of stock footage, stock photos that are all, sort of open for us to use without license. I mean, included in our license. And yeah, I haven't been too impressed with the video, to be honest. So that's why I'm here today.
Yes, very basic video features. Anyone
So
else?
how does it, yeah, just one question. How does it compare? Because I know my interns and I've played with a little Canva is very quick, photos
Canvas,
and
very
graphics and
similar.
text. And
Yeah,
so is it, okay, it's very similar.
yeah,
Okay.
very, very similar in many ways. One thing I do want to mention is that just like Canva, um, with digital storytelling, there's multimodal forms of expression. We can go video, we can do web design, you could do jingles, recordings, podcasts, poetry, dance. So I had a marketing professor in the previous institution where I was working, and he bought into my spiel on digital storytelling. And he brought me to the class, and he was a copywriting class, and he had the students write jingles. And with Adobe Express, most of them recorded their own song, the jingles. I mean,
Mhm.
how amazing is that? Because now they're not just writing, they're performing and creating these scripted PSAs and other
Mhm.
things. So that was fascinating, again, to push the limit of these assessments into actual project-based learning, right? We bring it to experiential learning type of experiences for them to do exactly what they are learning to do and master those skills. Okay, these are great points. Let me share real quick. For us at City Tech, I've included the direct link to Adobe Express in Brightspace. So I just made it a little bit easier for everyone here at Steady Tech to access Adobe Express. So let me show you. Let me see if I'm able to do this correctly. There's multiple ways to access Adobe Express, but if you go through Brightspace, I believe everyone can see my screen.
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
perfect. So what we did at A2L is that we went into our City Tech instance, and under Course Tools,
Hmm.
you will see Adobe Express. So we just made it a little bit easier for our City Tech folks to find Adobe Express. And as you can see, this list is growing. So over the summer, I'm gonna review this list because it's getting a little big and maybe move some things out of here. But simply by clicking Adobe Express, it will launch the landing page. Now, I miss Adobe Spark in one way, which I found it to be less um, overwhelming. As you can see, there's a lot thrown at you here. There's so much that I felt that Adobe Spark, they had, okay, here's your website, here's a video, here is a graphic, and here, over here, now you land on this page. It's just so much happening here. But one thing I do like that they kept is that anytime you see the blue plus sign, that's your entry point. Oh, I'm sorry. For Matt or anyone else who's not City Tech, you can open a new tab and just go to, I'm sure you can just do Adobe Express and it should take you in that way too.
It's
Yeah.
express.adobe.com.
Perfect. So Express, let me do that. For those who, yeah, it takes the same place. So Express, thank you, Matt. Express.adobe.com. Now, keep in mind that since we are all CUNY people, we would have to log in with our CUNY credentials. So that's just a keynote. So for your students, and part of the instructions, the resources that we provide for digital storytelling is just that, how to log in, because that could always be the most difficult part of the process is getting the students logged in, because as we all know, students have multiple email accounts, but CUNY is fixing that very soon. Eventually, all students will get moved into the faculty tenant, email Outlook tenant. So we will all be in the same tenant. So with that, yes, it is a little bit overwhelming. There's a lot here to see. Um, you know, what I recommend is always look for the little blue circle with the plus sign. That's my way in. That's something they kept from Adobe. They kept doing from Adobe Spark. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the little blue circle, and you have a pop-up window that shows up. And this is what I remember seeing in Adobe Spark. So they give you a little list here on the left-hand side. It's a little longer than what I remember in Adobe Spark, but you can clearly see that it's broken down into standard and suggested, social media and ads, video, photo, document, web page, and print. So it breaks it down to these uh, items. In this case, what we're doing today is we're going to focus on video. So I'm going to go ahead and click on video. Then we're still in the pop-up screen. And then it gives you a couple of more sub options here in mobile video, a regular video, and then below that you'll have social videos such as Facebook, Instagram Reel, Instagram Story, and it goes on forever. TikTok, LinkedIn. So what they're doing here is they're providing a template so that the resolution matches the size of the social media platform. As you know, the resolution size for these are all different, such as LinkedIn video, 1080 by 1920, which YouTube is 1920 by 1080. And what we're talking about here is the size of the frame. Think about you're buying a frame. You took some photos of your kids and you have the horizontal view, which is 1920 by 1080. You want the frame to fit the photo and the photo to fit the frame, right? So that's what we're looking at here. So if you pick a platform that you're looking to publish your videos, then this will provide you a template so that you don't have to worry about the size of the photo matching the frame. Any, is that clear? Or Matt, maybe you can, if I, okay, good, because I know Matt.
I would say the one thing that's different, the way I remember it is if it's horizontal, that's film, and if it's
Mhm.
vertical, that's social. So this film is horizontal, social is
Mhm.
vertical. That's a quick way to remember.
But your assets will have to be like you would have had to film it in the way that you ultimately are going to use it, just like in the old days, right?
If if you're bringing in video content that's going to take up the entire screen, and
Right.
so let's say if I do a YouTube video that's like Matt said, film a widescreen, right? So here would be 1920 by 1080, but I shot the video vertically,
Hmm.
then you're going to have those two black bars.
That's what I mean. So it's the
Yeah.
same as that. Oh, they can't. It can't help you out with that problem. Okay.
There's a couple of ways as video editors will either zoom punch in what we call punch in or zoom in, and then we'll lose some of the if you zoom in. But yes, you it's better to always film for what you're presenting in the platform that you're going to present it to. So that's the best practice is you always want
Yeah.
to right. Thank you, Tanya. That's a great point. With today's video, I'm gonna go with the standard. I'm gonna do a regular YouTube video, 1920 by 1080. And it's funny because back in the day, it was like sacrilegious if you were to shoot vertical, because
Hmm.
that
Absolutely.
what are you
Yeah.
doing? That was the thing I remember back then, and always hold it, horizontal, the camera or your phone. But now with TikTok, which is vertical, and Instagram is vertical, things have changed, and so that's okay.
Yeah.
Uh, so let's go with the 1920 by 1080 for today's video. Now, I do want to preface by saying that with the ease that we're getting of using Adobe Express, we are losing a lot of the capabilities, right? Because again, it's a low-hanging fruit. It's a tool designed for anyone with zero background in video editing and video production to jump on and start from the beginning, and it should be able to pick it up with little resistance without a steep learning curve. But with that, we're losing a lot of, fancy graphic, features. So just keep that in mind because at the end of the day, what we're looking to do here is straightforward videos that are easy to, with minimal amount of time, right? So we're looking for easy videos to put together in little amount of time. So what we get here is the stage, right? So what's on the white square here is the state. It's basically what the audience will see. At the bottom, what you have is drag and drop media to get started. But it gives you two options. You can add media. So I can begin by uploading my photos, audio, or video, and bringing those assets into Adobe Express by clicking Add Media or just dragging those assets. By assets, I mean any files, audio, video, photography, pictures, drawings, scans. And you can bring them in by dragging them in here or uploading them by clicking the Add Media.
It's a simple way of creating video or social media content. It actually makes it much faster.
Oh, I thought that was a question. I'm sorry, Tanya. The second option is you can start from scratch. So these are the two options that presented to you at the bottom. On the left-hand side, there are some menu options. On the top left, again, you have add content, which is redundant to what the bottom here button is. But when you mouse over the add content button, you'll see that it gives you a submenu. You have media, which includes photos, videos, music, sound effects, elements, which is design assets, background, shapes, and etc. Charts and grids, which is very nice to have some charts and tables. And it also has generative AI. I mean, what tool nowadays does not have generative AI in it? That's if you're looking for, like Matt mentioned, it has stock footage. But if you don't find the exact stock photo that you're looking for, and it's much more custom look that you're looking for, then you can go to, I believe it's Firefly, Adobe Firefly, and it will let you create those in a photo or an image that otherwise it's hard for you to find, and then you can generate them and bring them in that way. Okay. Then we have text, right? So, we need to have text in there. Sometimes might have a title, and then there's an upload button for you to upload. Then you can have access to your stuff, which are assets that you have been working maybe in Adobe Express prior, and you can bring those into this video. Branding, I'm not going to get into branding, but here you can create brands using Adobe Express. And once you have your brand, let's say CityTech brand or a CUNY brand, then you can bring in those logos and into your branding, like the theme, the colors, and let's say you want to have lower thirds, you can bring it in that way if you created a brand. Then we have templates. Templates are easy, pre-made assets that you can bring into your project. These are pre-made by Adobe, and so you can use those to speed up the process. So there's a nice collection of templates here that you can use. I'll show you later. Theme, basically the color theme that you want to go with your presentation or your video. So you can create a theme there. And there's add-ons. These are third-party vendors that you can bring in here. I played with it a little bit, and I was able to bring in some vendors that provide free tools, some of which are paid, but I found some free ones that are really good. But I'm not going to cover that too much today. That's beyond the scope of what we're going to do today. Any questions so far about the menu items? No? Okay. So real quick, I want to do a quick video on George Washington, quick and dirty, guerrilla style. I'm teaching my class. It's a history class, introduction to history, and we're going to start with George Washington. And I want to make something very simple. And so I want to talk about George Washington. Now, I failed to mention that Adobe Express is also available on your phone or on your tablet devices, any type of device, whether it's an iPad. You can download Adobe Express, log in with your CUNY login. The reason why I mentioned that is because if you're using your phone to film any content, then it's much easier for you to import that video to your project with your smartphone or your iPad or any tablet that you're using. So that's the key. That's very important because remember, if our videos do not involve talking head videos of ourselves, like if we're not going to be part of the video and you're just importing pictures or videos that are already made online that you're bringing in, then you don't need to record yourself. Then you can still do it on your phone, but it might be easier to do it on your computer because I prefer a bigger screen to work on because my phone, I don't know, I have a tough time with my vision with the tiny screen, and doing video editing is much more challenging on a smaller screen. So depending on who you are, if you feel who you are as working on a mobile phone as opposed to a computer, but also if you are filming, this is the key point, if you are filming video content with a device, it might be best or easier to edit your video on a device, and just since the files are already there, you can just bring them in that way. But it's not that hard if you do want to use a computer. It's not that hard to send yourself that MP4 file of your phone video to your email and then import it back into Adobe Express on your computer. Okay. Any questions about that? Because that might be a little bit confusing for someone. No, everyone got it? Okay. Awesome. All right. So since we're going to talk about George Washington, I just wanted to demo the ability to use where was it? There was one thing I did want to show. Oh, templates. All right. So there are some pretty good ones here, right? So if I'm going to talk about George Washington, it was more like a timeline, idea that I had in mind. I was going to talk about from the beginning to the end on his deathbed, right? So if I type timeline, these are some templates on timelines. So here's an interesting one here that I might use or might consider using is the history timeline. So I can just click on it. Once I click on it, at the bottom, you can see my entire timeline has has already been pre-populated for me with this template, right? So this is something I might want to use. So if I hit the space bar, it begins to play for me. So if I hit the space bar, a little nice transition. This is something that looks nice to me. I find interesting. Maybe I can change the photo here and replace these photos with George Washington. That might be something I might want to do. Right. So that's what a template does for you. It helps you. You don't have, it gives you a jump start, right? And let me try one more. Let me try a different one. This one looks more like something I would use for George Washington, maybe. If I hit the space bar again, and I like that you can see the two windows. You can see the timeline and you can see the stage. And so you can see what's creating what is causing a certain thing to show up in the timeline. If I move the timeline here or I move it here, this asset right here is what's creating what's on my screen here. So I can use the mouse, the cursor, and move it anywhere, and that tells me what's creating what is causing this to display here. And with a template, I can simply go to the beginning, click on the text. This is very straightforward, right? I can click on the text, and now I've highlighted the text, and I can just type. Right? And as you saw, as I was typing, it was already changing the font size for me. But on the left-hand side, I can see the font that's being used, which is Courier Prime. It's bold. And on the right-hand side, I can increase the font size or decrease the font size based on my liking, right? So a pet peeve of mine is making sure everything is centered. It provides for you tells you where it's centered vertically and horizontally, right? That's something about me. Something that bugs me is making sure everything is centered properly. Um, but let's say I wanted to add my name, right? So let's make some space at the bottom, and then I click text. And I'm going to put a subheading, and here I put by Jose Diaz. Obviously, this color is not going well with what I'm trying to do here because the background it's a little too bright, right? So I can always click on it, and then here I can change the text color. As if you hover over any of these buttons, it will give you a little a text bubble. It tells you what it is, and so I want to change the color maybe to black or maybe a dark blue. Let's see. Yeah, that works, right? So already I have my title page, right? I have something here. Uh, so that's what a template could do for you, right? And as you can see, the effects still happen. So let me hit the space bar just to preview. Oh, so there was another piece here, right? So the order of events. So I should have put my name there. So I should have put by Jose Diaz. That should have done it and deleted this. So simply by clicking, hit delete. It's very straightforward, right? So now if I hit play, let's try that one more time. And the effects are all there, right? So now if I wanted to add my voice to the first slide, we go back to add content over here, and under media, here, I can add music. So at the bottom, you can say add audio. So so what I did here now, it created for us a second track. So the top is the video track, and below the video track is the audio track. And so there's a little plus sign. I know it's hard to see, but when you add an audio track, you're going to see a little plus icon. Remember I talked about the little plus icon? That's always your entry point, right? So there's the little plus sign. Now, when I click on the plus sign, I have several choices. I can record my voice as a voiceover, or I can upload if I have, let's say, a song that I prefer, I have an MP3 file that I want to add as my music, I can upload that. Or if I already recorded my speech and I just want to import my recording, I can then upload the MP3 file that way. But in this case, I want to challenge myself. I want to actually use Adobe Express to record my voice. So let's give that a try. So that's the second button here below. It says record voiceover. Now, this is a little tricky. I learned the hard way. When you're going to record your voice, um, give it at least a second or two before you begin to speak, right? So some dead air, what we call dead air, because I've noticed that when I hit record, there's a little bit of the delay, and sometimes it cut off the beginning of my voice. Also at the end of your recording, right? So do not stop the recording when you stop speaking. Give it about a second for a second or two. I'll say about a second for the entry and at the end. That makes sense, right? So you don't cut yourself off. So here we go. Let's give it a try. Now I'm using Zoom, so I don't know if my voice will get recorded because I'm using I'm using Zoom and I'll use Adobe Express for the microphone. So let's see, it might work, it might not, but I'll give it a try. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit record voiceover. And I'm gonna get a little pop-up and I can see that the mic, it is picking up my voice because you can see the meter going left and right. So it is picking up my voice. But keep in mind that this is a permission. Adobe Express is asking your browser for permission to use the microphone, right? So if I hit yes, allow while visiting the site. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I'm giving permission for Adobe Express to record my voice. Okay, so now it's picking up my voice. There is a button at the top that allows you to enhance speech. By default, it's turned on. You can see that it's turned on. I wish there was a different way because it is confusing, but when you see it dark, it means it's turned on. And there's a little bubble there, and it tells you that it will remove noise and echo from the voice recording. Now, Matt will tell you this, and I will tell you this. Any video that you ever create, audio is the most important thing in a video. You can have a Hollywood film, high top-notch video with a red camera, but if the audio is not understandable and it's screeching noise and background and it's just annoying and you can't understand what the speakers, the video is worthless. So I recommend if you're going to record, go somewhere quiet. I used to record in the bathroom. I used to at one point used to put a blanket over my head and put a microphone. Wherever you go, find a place that's quiet.
I've done that.
You done that too, Matt? So I do a lot of video tutorial, videos, and I used to put a heavy blanket over my head just to create this dome of. So let's go ahead. Let's give this a recording. So I'm
I
going to
have
go.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
And I just put it in there like, can you adjust the pitch of your voice if you don't like it? Is there any editing tools like that? The only reason why I ask this is one of the reasons why I don't like being recorded is I find that honestly, when I listen to the recordings, I don't like the sound of my voice sometimes because the pitch gets high when I get excited. So I've always like had to work on that. And I wondered if that's something that I wondered if enhanced speech doesn't do that. It just, eliminates. So I wondered, is there any like limited editing after that, or you just have to re-record till you get what you like?
Yes, there's the big brothers and sisters of Adobe, like Adobe Audition, I believe.
Mhm.
Adobe Premiere also does it. Forget what else. Any other tools, Matt, that you use?
No, we don't do that really. We don't do much audio tweaking like that.
Speaking. Oh,
Right.
okay.
No, it's yeah, those take a lot of time. I know audition and stuff, but okay, so that's still like that. They don't offer any limited. Okay, good
No,
to know.
you might get a little more features if you use the Adobe podcast tool, obviously, because
Ah,
I was going to ask, is that included in the license? Because I know I have the Creative Cloud license, so
uh,
that includes everything. But do we have access to the podcasts?
I have access. I haven't tested with our faculty and students, but I
Yeah.
believe it's still. I believe our CUNY folks should have access to Adobe. They rebranded that as well. I don't know what it was. It was called.
If you go to, instead of express.adobe.com, you go to
Yeah.
Okay.
podcast.adobe.com, and there's a button there that says enhance. And that's the
Okay.
same tool that we're seeing here, but you have some sliders that you can change. Like you can change the sliders a little bit. So
Okay.
there is some things you can change on it, but I don't think it'll like take the pitch down.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Audition will give you that more advanced feature, like make my
Mhm.
voice robotic, for something, or
I- Did you see Tanika's question about can you do it in Clipchamp and bring it in, like your voice, like because she's talking about not using her own voice, right? Am I right,
Oh,
Tanika?
that's an excellent point. I use.
Yes.
Oh, so go ahead,
Well,
Tanika.
sorry. No, I was just gonna mention I discovered it maybe 2 weeks ago. So I was utilizing that as a way to record over like a demo video. And I noticed that you can use AI voiceover through that, but I was wondering for this, which I believe Matt answered the question, you can't use it here, but it would be nice to kind of have someone else speak and not, have
Yes.
my own voice. So, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and it was pretty
You
easy
and
to
me both,
use.
Tanika.
Hmm.
we started using that, Tanika, for our tutorial videos.
Mm.
We
Mm,
use a text to speech AI tool, and what we do is we also use AI sometimes to script the voice, the narrative, and
hmm.
then I take I'll use Copilot or Gemini to, hey, create me a 2 minute script on this topic. Then I copy the script and then I
Hmm.
bring it to a text to speech editor, and I can
Hmm.
follow up in the summary email with some links to the ones that we use that are for
Mm.
free. And then what we do next is we pick the voice, and a lot of these tools are free, but sometimes they'll limit you to maybe 3 to 5 minutes, depending on some of them, they will give you like 5,000 words or something.
Hmm.
Then what I do after that is after I pick the voice, I preview it. If we like how it sounds, because sometimes it does screw up with certain words, it doesn't pronounce the word correctly. We have to something put like a space between a and the word, and then to make it say it correctly. So it does take a little bit of finagling. After that, we download the MP3 file, and now that we have the MP3 file, we import that MP3 file into Adobe Express.
I actually did know that.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. I'm sorry I have to jump off, but
Sure.
I'm looking forward to the links and the rest of the recording from this. Thank you,
Sure.
Jose.
Thanks for joining us, Anika. Thank you.
Bye,
Okay.
Tanika. Have a good weekend.
All right. So let's, okay. Again, I mean, this is impromptu. I don't know what to say, but I'm going to say a couple of words and then I will record my voice, which I did, just like Tanya. I hate hearing my voice. Uh, and I apologize. I can't see the chat because I'm screen sharing here. So it's a little bit difficult. So if there's any questions, feel free to interrupt. So let me go ahead and just do a quick recording just to see how this will sound. Um, Okay, so I think I know what I'm going to say. Let me just begin by introducing myself, and this is my video on George Washington. My name is Jose Diaz, and today I will be presenting on George Washington. Okay, so as you saw, there was a countdown, right? We saw the 3-second countdown, and then it began to play the video that's going to overlay the audio, right? So if I bring back the cursor to the beginning of the video, and let's see how that sounds. My name is Jose Diaz, and today I will be presenting on George Washington. All right, so I was a little bit behind because I was worried about getting cut off at the beginning, I thought it did pretty good job at recording. Once I clicked the record button, it was already recording. So now I have a little bit of a sync issue, but it's a good thing because I wanted to practice this with you all because this is important. I think this is probably the hardest thing that you will encounter with Adobe Express is how do I make things sync and how do I move things around and how do I cut things? So as you can see, my audio starts a little bit too late. My name is Jose Diaz, and today I will be presenting on George Washington. All right, so that's okay, right? So what I'm going to do is there's a lot of dead air here in the beginning. And with Adobe Express, if you go to the beginning of the audio clip, it's going to give you a double side arrow. And if I click and drag to the right, I'm cutting the beginning part, right? So now I'm cutting it to where I can see the little lines of when I begin to speak because there was too much dead air in the beginning. Okay, so now I cut the first maybe second or two from my clip, but now there's a big gap in the beginning, right? How do I move this clip to the beginning? So simply, I'm in the audio track, which is the first track is video and the bottom one is the audio. So what I want to do is I want to move this little clip towards the beginning. So I'm just going to click on it and then drag it towards the left. So now if I bring the play bar back to the beginning and I hit the space bar to play, my name is Jose Diaz, and today I will be presenting on George Washington. Right. So as you can see, there's a little bit also dead air at the end. So again, I'm going to grab the tail end and you're going to see those double-sided arrows. And I'm just going to drag it towards the left this time until I see that those lines, I hit the lines where I spoke. Now if I drag the timeline, the cursor to the beginning of the video and hit the space bar. My name is Jose Diaz, and today I will be presenting on George Washington. Nope, I cut myself a little bit, so I have to extend. Okay, so I was a little bit tight there. So let me move a little bit more, and I'm just going to play from there, make sure that the ending doesn't get cut off. On George Washington. Oops, a little more. So it takes a little bit of, finagling this, right? Being on George Washington. Boom, got it. Okay, now the second tip I want to mention is that we will all be tempted to record this in one shot. But with Adobe Express, the beauty of it is that you can bring in your slides. As you can see, I have a slide here about the title of this event. Then I have another title here about, let's say if I move towards here, this could be I can talk about George Washington cutting the apple tree, George Washington crossing the Delaware River, right? So as I'm going through the timeline, what I am doing here is I'm focusing on recording for that specific slide. So we're chunking. We're only recording per slide. So you can just hone in on what it is that you want to say for that specific slide. And that helps that helps tremendously because sometimes, when you're recording from the beginning to the end, there could be flubs, there could be mistakes. And now what you're forced to do is you're going to have to go back in and fix those flubs. But if you do it this way, if you break it up into small pieces of recordings, it makes it easier for you to have to fix any mistakes. Because if there is a mistake, you just grab it, do it again, hit record, and drop it in until you get it right. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes.
Quick question, Jose.
Sure.
How many tracks can we add to this? Like video, audio? Can we layer, videos and audio?
Yeah, that's a great point. So as you can see with the template that I brought in, we have not counting the audio track, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tracks, right? And this one here is an image. This one is a text. This is text, and this is image. And then together, that's what you're getting here. It's all being layered like an onion, layer by layer by layer. So I don't know the exact limit of maximum layers Adobe Express has, but I'm sure we can Google it and find out. But the same can be done with the audio because remember, I can record my voiceover, but then I can also add a nice soft music in the background that doesn't interfere with my speech. So if I wanted to add a song in the background, let's try to do that real quick. We'll add one more layer, and we're getting close to the end, but I'm going to speed up a little bit. but I'm happy to stay behind extra if anybody is okay, but I'm also going to be careful of your time. So here I went back to add content, and if I click media again, the same thing. And this time, what I can do now is I can search for music. So what if I want some, let's say, elevator music, soft, or maybe something soft. Um, Let me see. Let me try elevator music here. Uh, Something soft that's not too interrupting. And so what you could do now, you can search, and it gave me 7 results. Now I can preview the music by clicking on the play button here. Okay, those are all a little too much for me, but just because we're running out of time, I'm just going to bring in one of these in here. So I'm going to drop in the first one. So I'm going to click on it, and now automatically the track is added. So now I have 2 audio tracks, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other tracks that have images, text, and everything else. So you can continue going on and adding more and more tracks as you go, and it could get really complicated as you know as you continue to add more things. As you adding more things, there's a button here in the top in the side here that it shows you the timeline. You can zoom in and zoom out. This can help you if you, let's say, for example, want to zoom out, you click on the minus. You see how now it gets smaller? So here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 items that are going on my timeline. If I want to add a new one, and by the way, by default, I believe these are about 5 seconds each, as you can see, because it goes here to, it says about 4 seconds. But if I want to add another another more media to here, let's say I want to add George Washington's photo. So I'm going to click the plus sign, add a blank scene. I'm doing this real quick. I went to this website, internarchive.org. It's a great place for you to find content that is not copyrighted. It's archive.org. They're pretty good at giving, images, photos, or you can go to Wikipedia. They're also pretty good, and you can download material from there. But so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to import a photo that I downloaded. And so here is, I'm going to upload from device. And here's a photo of George Washington, a portrait of George Washington that I'm going to add. Right. And so I'm going to add it as now it's asking me, do I want to add as a layer? But I want to add it as a scene, the sequence. I'm not going to add as a layer because this is just a one-time thing that I want to add his photo. And so I'm just going to go as a scene and sequence, add. Okay. Now you can see that the photo has been added, but you can also see that it's a little bit too big because remember how we talked about resolution size? So how do I fix that? So what I'm going to do is, since my screen is pretty zoomed in, I'm on a PC, so I'm going to hit Control minus just to make it a little bit easier for me to resize the image. And so I'm going to minimize the photo. And as you can see, it's a vertical photo on a horizontal frame. So I got to put this somehow, maybe here on the side. That looks good. And I'm going to go back to the regular so everyone can see the screen. On the left-hand side, I'm going to add text. So I click on text. And there's a lot of templates for you to play around with. You can go and search, but I'm just looking for something very basic. I'm just going to click add a title. And then here I'm going to put George Washington. Oops. All right, so that's how you add a photo. That's how you add text. And so I'm just going to resize this and move it across. It's just like PowerPoint, right? So maybe I might want to put it here. All right. So, there we go. I added an image, I added text, and now I can add a voiceover here, right? So I can go back to add content, go to media, record voiceover. Now, depends where I have the cursor on the timelines where I want to start the recording from, right? So make sure you place the cursor on the slide that you want to record over. That's very important because we talked about targeted recording, right? You want to break them up into pieces and choose which slides you want to speak over because sometimes you don't have to speak over every slide. Don't feel forced to have to speak for every slide. Sometimes an image is worth 1,000 words and you don't have to really speak over it. But again, it's your choice. So I'm going to speak over this quickly over this slide, and I'm going to hit record voiceover. And then I'm gonna get the 3 second countdown. And this time I'm gonna start speaking as soon as the timer hits 0. So I know that my scene is for about 5 seconds. So if I want to speak for more than 5 seconds, here's the hack around it, right? So what you could do is you can then, if I want to speak for 10 seconds about this one slide, then what you could do is you can go to the little the George Washington slide. There's an ellipse. You click on that and then you duplicate it. What I did there now is I have 10 seconds now of that slide, right? So think about how long do you want to talk about on for that specific slide. If you're thinking a quick 10 seconds is good enough, then what you do is you duplicate the slide so there's continuity, right? Now, if you see, if I'm sliding through, the picture doesn't change, but now I have 10 seconds as opposed to 5 seconds. Does that make sense, everyone? Good? Okay, so now I know I have 10 seconds, so I'm going to bring it up to the beginning of that slide, which is around here, and then I'm going to go back to add content, go to media, and then record voiceover. And then I'm going to hit start recording. George Washington was the first president of the United States. He was one of the only presidents who denied to become a king after his second term. I mean, that was improv. I don't know where I got that from. So now, as you can see, I timed it perfectly to match my 10 seconds. So if I hit play, if I go back to the beginning, George Washington was the first president of the United States. He was one of the only presidents who denied to become a king after his second term. So that's what we call film to edit, right? You're creating content so that you don't have to edit. You're saving time, and you know that you need 10 seconds, and you're going to record for 10 seconds, right? So that's how you. So what we did today was we created a timeline. We played around with a template. We added an image. We imported images. The same can be done with a video file. If you have a video that you want to import, you can do the same thing. You can go to add content, go to media, then you upload from device. I don't think I have any. Let me see, but did I download anything for George Washington? No, I didn't. But if I did have a video on George Washington, I can then import it here. And I I do want to take a few seconds to mention that if you do import a video, sometimes what happens when you bring in a video into the timeline, you're just looking for a small portion of that video. So just how I was able to crop the beginning of my audio, you can do the same for your video. If the part of the video that you want to keep for your presentation or the video that you're creating is somewhere in the middle, what you do is you drag the timeline to the beginning of that part in the video, and then you do the same for the tail end, and that's how you crop the video that you've imported into your timeline, right? Now, the last thing I do want to share, because I know we were over, is any questions before I talk about how to export the video? So I have an MP4 file that I can bring into Brightspace or bring it into YouTube.
Is there any limit? Like, because I'm just looking at this, I wasn't planning on doing this, but I have like recently I had the speaker from Brooklyn Navy Yard come about their internships, right? But I would like to shorten that video, right? So is there any limit on, how large the video is that you can bring into Express in terms of length of time or anything like that to edit it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can double check, but I'm not 100% certain as if there is any limitations as to how long the video. I've never came across that limitation, but I'll double check and Google it just to double check. At the end
But
of
it
the
can
day,
handle like an hour or 45 minutes of a
I
video.
believe so. It should because in the previous video I brought the video that I imported was very long.
Hmm.
I had a very long video that I've imported, and I only needed snippets of it.
Hmm.
But it was about over 30 minutes long, and I didn't give me any problem.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
At the end, also just to keep just to also emphasize the importance of I think Tanya, you mentioned it earlier, is also chunking your videos into small videos that are digestible in 5, 7 minutes. So that's always a key point. Okay, so I just want to make sure, right? So we covered how to import video assets such as images, video, photos, how to add text, how to shorten or crop or move items in the timeline. If, for example, I wanted to swap this video, this scene, I can just click, drag it, and move it to the back. So you can just, it's a drag and drop, right? So you can just move things around very easily and just move thing over here. If I want to drop this in the beginning, it's as simple as drag and dropping items from one to the next. And simply adding more content is by clicking the plus icon here. And then from there, I can just create a new scene. Now, keep in mind, each one of these is considered a scene. That's the terminology here. This is a scene. This is a scene. These are all scenes,
Oh,
right?
they use scene instead of frame. Huh.
Yeah, they use scenes as right. A
Huh.
frame, I can see why not. I can see why they didn't use it because a frame is really that one frame in the video, you know.
Yeah. Hmm.
Uh, but they use the terminology scene as adding new scenes. So if I do a blank scene, as you can see now, my timeline
Hmm.
has expanded, right? So now I have a blank scene here. And always remember that tip that I gave you. If you want to speak for longer periods of time, for